student activist at UCLA knows why this is the case. There is not a student here who is involved in some type of political action that hasn't been mentored by Chris in some way. He is involved in so many different organizations, from the Bruin Lobby Corps to Bruin Democrats, but also STAND, which is a student organization against genocide. It's this dedication to progressive issues that makes Chris notable in our club, but to me, it's his dedication to passing on the knowledge of how to organize that makes him truly one of the best students at UCLA right now. So I'd like to ask Chris to come forward.
Thank you very much, Becca, and thank you, everyone. There's no way I'm supposed to be following Congressman Flax's play. So that just feels a little weird, but I do feel very deeply humbled to be receiving this. And thank you again to the Bruin Democrats. Thank you all for coming out today. Thank you very much, Becca, for that introduction. And also thank you for being one of my partners in crime, and to the Bruin Democrats for putting this event on again this year. And I also have to thank my parents and my Aunt Vivian, who have been a continuing source of support and encouragement in my life. And I obviously can't begin to say how happy I am to see this event going on again this year. And I'm really happy for Mona and for the Bruin Democrats for pulling this off once again, because it was very difficult for me to organize last year, and this event is definitely a lot more complicated this year. But I think this is a really special gathering of a community of progressive activists during what most of us know is a really historic time to be alive and fighting for change. And I couldn't have asked for a better time to be in college, knowing that our country and our state are at a very critical juncture in history. And I'm always inspired by the high caliber leadership of students that is largely responsible for the progressive change we see taking place in society. And a lot of you know that I'm in my last year at UCLA, and that after this June, I'm out of here and I'm not coming back. But every time I think about that, I feel myself reliving through a lot of the things I've been through since coming here. And for those of us in college now, I don't think we could have ever asked for a better time to be a student activist. It's very true that college is incredibly unaffordable and inaccessible. We've suffered just as many setbacks as we have savored sweet victories in this fight over the last few years. And it's very true that it's difficult to stay in school, to say the least. For those who have to face immense day-to-day challenges that a lot of us are facing, whether you've got a massive amount of student loans to pay off or you're barely scraping by to stay in school. And this may not look much like the 1960s, where there's some mass protest every week with students throwing chairs through windows and taking over buildings. At least not until last October, November, and this past week. But most of the time I've been here, it hasn't quite looked like that. But while some of us have been here, we've had the privilege of being a part of some of the greatest movements whose achievements would not have been possible without the initiative of students. A lot of us participated in the movement to divest the UC system, California, the nation, and a lot of countries after that from a genocidal regime in Sudan. And of course, I can't go on saying that without acknowledging Mr. City Councilman Paul Koretz, who is the author and the champion of that bill. Thank you again, Councilman Koretz, for your passion and courage. And we've knocked on tens of thousands of doors to elect a truly historic Democratic candidate, President of the United States. And we began the first ever student-organized effort to restore democracy to the budget-making and revenue-raising process in California, which is something I'm very proud of, that the students have been working really hard on. And now it seems as if we're as close as ever to passing a truly historic piece of legislation that can help make college more affordable for students. And I'm referring to the Student Aid and Fiscal Responsibility Act, something that a lot of us have been working on forever. And most of us in this room have actually been working really hard on since September. So my point is that there's change being made all around us, and it's a change that has so much integrity, it's not immediately noticeable on the surface. It's not something that we try to get lots of attention for. But one of my friends in the Sudan divestment campaign, one of my first friends when I got here, Scott Sia, advised me to make the most of my 4 years here as a student activist because it's a truly unique opportunity to be doing this during your undergraduate years. Because after graduation, once you get a full-time job or you're in grad school, you have very little time left for this stuff, and there will be nothing quite like this. And because of that, I try participating in as many of these movements as possible, and it's really special for me to be here with so many of the people who played a key role in them. I shared a lot of special moments with all the student leaders in this room, and those moments which came thanks to all the hard work that we put in, all the time we spent together, culminated in so many of the sweet victories of the year that I will definitely treasure for as long as I've been here, for as long as I will live. And for this, I feel really blessed, and especially to have done it at the campus where so many of the great progressive movements were born. And I think we're all very lucky to be going to a school with a long and rich history where people didn't just prepare to go out into the world to make a difference, but they made a difference while they were here. So go Bruins, you guys are awesome. On top of that, I say that we all are going to a school during a critical time in history because there are so many challenges left to be tackled that will define our generation, like the climate crisis, the growing injustices, the broken immigration system, our dying higher education system. And these problems that too many of our political leaders have pushed to the back burners long before have left us with all these challenges, and now we're being tested on how well our generation can address these huge problems. And I have a lot of faith in the people in this room to rise to these challenges, especially the students. I can't help but be inspired by the stories of student leaders on this campus whose tenacity and passion make me hopeful that they will rise to our generation's challenges. Like the students who journey from places like Korea and Mexico and face down the challenges of assimilating in this country while fighting for their right to citizenship, or the students who simply come to UCLA with very little in their pockets looking to start a new life. And I know that a lot of you are in that situation. And these stories have continually inspired me, and I know I'll be reading about a lot of you in the newspaper if I haven't already, because you'll be the ones rising to meet these challenges that we've all been so passionate about during our time here. So for all these reasons, my 4 years here will have been incredibly special to me, and I hope that every one of you will make the most of the rest of your 4 years here. So thank you.